Mark, if you wouldn't mind. All right, we have a good sync point. Excellent. Mark, thank you for joining us today. If you wouldn't mind, can you just say and spell your name?
My name is Mark Penland, M-A-R-K-P-E-N-L-A-N-D.
Excellent. All right. You got the first question right.
Mom would be proud.
Okay. So what we want to do here is we want to talk just a little bit about artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI, and how it affects the artistic process, and really kind of get your take on where you think this might be headed in the long run. Okay? So if you don't mind, I just have some specific questions I'm
Okay.
going to ask you.
Sure.
And then when I ask you the question, if you wouldn't mind, just try to work in the question into your answer, because you're
Gotcha.
going to hear me on the audio.
Gotcha.
Okay? All right. So the first question is extremely broad. Based on generative AI, what do you think the future looks like for artists?
I think generative AI is going to be huge. I mean, we're already seeing it in Photoshop. I use it almost every day in Photoshop. And it's just another really powerful tool that we can use. I'm a collage artist, and so it's especially useful for me, but instead of going in and finding things physical, I can just make them. And that has just changed everything for me.
Okay, excellent. Try to keep the rustling down to a minimum, okay, guys? Because we will hear everything. That's a great answer. All right. Okay, so based on your experience up to date, how do you, or let me ask you, to what degree do you believe that artists will have to embrace this technology to stay relevant?
To no degree at all. I don't think artists need to embrace this technology at one bit. And I think that actually it'll be interesting, the people that choose not to will become more unique in the market. For example, right now, Renee and I are making these selections, and the new Photoshop, you can just do one click and it makes these beautiful, perfect selections. But we're doing it by hand. And so even though we're using this technology, we're still doing things by hand. And I think that's important, and I think it will always be important.
Do you feel that doing things by hand, being handcrafted, adds more intrinsic value to the art?
It does for me, yeah, for sure.
How so?
It took effort. It's the mark of a human, you know? You can't fake that, not yet.
Okay. That's a really good question. Okay. So this next question, and it's just a general question, so it's not directed at anybody in general, but do you believe that art generated through generative AI should be copyrighted?
I don't know if art that's generated by AI can be copyrighted, because the stuff that I'm doing anyway is being pulled from the web, and it's being pulled without anyone's permission. So I'm using it without permission, so where does that leave me? I'm not sure.
Okay. If you had to, in a perfect world, what would you, I mean, if there was a definitive answer to that, would you be on the side of for copyright or against copyright?
For copyright, for sure.
Okay. Could you answer that with like, just kind of incorporating that? So like, if, in a perfect world, if it could.
In a perfect world, yeah, in a perfect world, I would incorporate that. I'm sorry, I lost the train.
Oh, that's okay. Just in a perfect world, if there were a definitive yes or no, you could or could not, what is your preference?
I think in a perfect world, copyright always benefits the artist every time. And so I would hope that that would be part of the future. Because as an artist, I make money by creating these unique things. And if anyone can go in and copy it, then where does that leave me?
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. Okay. I'm reading a couple of lines here. I'm going to paraphrase. So, can you describe some of the ways that using generative AI in art creation may challenge some of the traditional notions of creativity in the creative process?
I think that generative AI is radically challenging what we consider to be art. I can go in with a couple of prompts and come up with something pretty amazing, but it ain't mine. And I'm not sure that it's art. But defining art is a really tricky place to be, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to say, oh, this is art, this is not. If you made something, okay, it's art. But I think that it's just going to radically change things, and we're going to have to radically change our rules and our perspectives on how we look at art.
With all due respect, I've seen your work, and your prompts that you engineer are far different than anything I have ever seen. So it is, to me, I think Mark Penland brings a unique perspective to your work just by the prompt that you write. That said, do you consider the crafting of a prompt part of the creative process?
Oh, absolutely, sure. And that's a big part of play. I mean, for me, art is about playing. It's about having fun. Because if you're not having fun, you're not going to keep doing it, probably, right? And so for me, coming up with these insane prompts just to see what the computer does is half the fun. And I do think that's my creative process, is asking the computer, hey, computer, can you do this? But it's funny because we were working on Dog and Pony Show, and if you put in Dog and Pony into Midjourney, it doesn't know what to do. It can't give it back to you. So you have to be creative sometimes in getting around the software to get what you want. So yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
Okay. You're doing an excellent job. Okay, so this next question is a little bit about ethics. So what ethical concerns arise with AI-generated art when they do copy like the likeness of a human being or the work of another artist? What ethical things are at risk there?
The ethical dilemmas that AI brings, we're just starting to explore, because this is so new and it's changing so quickly. But when I do a prompt and say, okay, do something in the style of Mark Rothko, and it spits back at me, that ain't me, right? And so personally, my personal ethics would say, no, you can't do that. And so we're choosing not to use any prompts that include any artist at all.
So you're not saying in the style of
Right.
anything?
Yeah. And if you go and look at Midjourney, the public page, about 90% of it is that. And so I'm being judgmental there, but that's my ethics and no one else's. But I think we're figuring out as we go along.
What does it feel like to be on the cutting edge of something brand new artistically?
I don't know. Are we on the cutting edge? I don't think so. I mean, I'm using consumer software that I paid $19.95 a month for. I don't feel like I'm on the cutting edge. I do feel like I'm on the cutting edge in how we're applying the tool, but not using the tool itself, if that makes sense. So.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to switch gears again. So these next questions are about the value of what you're creating. So, okay. So compared to, say, if you were to take your work side by side with, say, art that was collage, by your traditional means versus this new means that you're working, do the new generative AI collages have the same value?
They do, yeah. Our new work does have a lot of value because we're putting time and effort into it, and it really is from us. Yeah, we're using AI to generate portions of the work, but the rest of it is on us. And I feel like that makes it, that gives us ownership.
Okay. Excellent. All right. this. So this is not specifically towards collaging, but being that AI can generate so many works so quickly, and it can iterate from there, humans can't compete with brute force. Where does that leave human artists?
I think it leaves us exactly where we were before any of this. The folks that can make stuff that other people like are going to find a market, and people that don't have that gift are not. So I don't think it changes anything.
All right. I'm shifting gears one more time for you and talk a little bit about technology. Do you ever try to include emotions into any of your prompts?
Oh, absolutely, sure.
What happens when you include emotions into prompts?
Well, a prompt I've been using lately is joyful chaos. And it really does affect each prompt. If you leave that prompt in the front of the string, you start seeing certain things, like you start seeing things on the edge, you start seeing motion blur. So it really does affect it. But as you said earlier, you can feed it the same prompt and it's going to give you something different every single time. So yeah, I think that's of value.
Besides joyful chaos, can you think of some other ones you might have used recently?
Not that I could repeat in company.
Okay. That's great. Okay. How about this? And this is, again, not so much speaking to what you do because your work is so customized, but in general, your opinion on generative AI art. Is it collectible?
Sure, people will collect anything. Yeah, I do think that AI art is collectible. I mean, people are buying NFTs, you know? Is there anything more worthless than that? But no, I do think that it does have value. A guy that used to run the photo program at TCC used to call photographic prints that he made in the darkroom one-of-a-kind multiples.
Okay.
That he felt that every time he went in the darkroom and made a print, that it was unique, even if it was in same negative, same workday, same everything else, but it had to be unique because it was made by hand. And that's something an analog gives us that AI does not.
Okay, so those are all of my questions based upon just art in general. Would you like to add anything else about, as far as your personal excitement or where your stance on where this is going? Just kind of just free flow of stream of consciousness. Like, what do you think?
I feel like that we're in the very beginning of something that nobody understands. And that we're all just kind of blindly saying, oh, this is great, how fun is this? But where's it going to go? I don't know, and it kind of frightens me, especially when I look at the news industry. I think that half the things I see right now are fake. And the way that AI is beginning to affect video, I mean, even inside Adobe Photoshop now, you can create video that's AI, that's fairly believable. And what's it going to look like in 6 months? I mean, it just feels like the scale's doing this. And we can't see the top because we're down here. But it's changing so radically. I'm excited and I'm frightened at the same time. So, yeah, that's it.
That's a great interview. All right. Everyone please cut, and then I would like everyone to please play back